Feel like lucid be my dreams. Said he love me, so I'm sure you know the means. It's like I'm living all inside a movie in a dream. Sequels to my life entirely up to me. Slowly suffocating, do you notice how it feels? Baby, can you hold me while I'm running through the field? Like hills that have the eye, but I do not think they see me. Even if they do, then I guess gon' have to kill me.
It's the holidays, so it's very common to go visit family out of state, and with that comes renting out places if necessary. One of the most popular apps to do just that is Airbnb, which fun fact stands for Air Bed and Breakfast. The company began in 2008 and is a place where the host can rent out a home, room, or even an experience if you want to try something new. But with something that's been in business for about 16 years and revolves around its community.
The most unsettling Airbnb stories. Now, I don't know how y'all niggas are, but for me, I hope that when I don't get in Airbnbs like that anymore, but yo, I'm paranoid that there will be cameras. Bro, do you know how much money you could fucking make off of putting cameras in niggas' rooms? Not only that, you have to realize some niggas are actually freaky deaky niggas. So if you're getting an Airbnb, you already know. You're getting an Airbnb, you're going to Toronto with your girl, you get an Airbnb, you're probably gonna go crazy. Niggas will put cameras, niggas know that. I'd be paranoid that there's gonna be cameras in the B&B, fam. Like, super paranoid. So I don't think that's why I haven't got a B&B in a minute, bro, because I'd be paranoid. And like, you don't know what niggas is doing. It's their house. They could put cameras, you know, like, it's not like a hotel. They could do whatever the fuck they want in that room. I'd be paranoid. Not only that, say they were like putting it on the, like, it sounds crazy, but say they were selling it on the dark web, or like, yo, they would make a bag off of that shit. So like, yeah, you know, I'd be paranoid about it.
There have been a lot of dangerous events that have occurred, from hosts placing hidden cameras in rooms.
See? What did I just fucking say, my nigga? Like, bro, I'm telling you, because that's not only that is that a bag, but there's also niggas who are probably weird and like get off to that shit.
From hosts placing hidden cameras in rooms, guests using the rented home for drug use, orgies, and even a makeshift brothel, to even discovering a corpse in the same location where a guest simply thought they were gonna relax. Today's video is dedicated.
Corpse, nigga? Nah, that's crazy. That's crazy. My brain didn't fully gather what this motherfucker said for a second. Yo, before I end stream, I'm gonna take off the direct to show you niggas that my hairline is not fucked. Cause y'all niggas seem to think my shit is cooked.
Dedicated to unsettling Airbnb stories. Hey guys, my name is Tuv. I'll be your host for today's video. I'm always the what am I saying? I'm always the host on this channel. Here's the current sub count. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't even worry about that. I'll earn your subscription by the end of this video. Sometimes I wish you guys could smell me through the screen because my cologne game is crazy. Luckily, you too have the ability to woo anyone with porcelain investment in crazy and homie your vibe.
I'm telling you, I'm really a YouTube
been ranked as a superhost, having provided guests with exceptional rural retreats over the years. He had a cabin in the hill country town of Comfort in Texas called Ali's Cielito Lindo Ranch, which was described to have been cozy, quiet, and safe. Now, from what I just said, you'd expect nothing but good vibes from the host, right? Well, no, you're watching a Tuv video, so that's not what's going to happen in this story. On February of 2023, he was charged with 15 counts of invasive visual recording. He had secret cameras constantly recording.
Telling you, nigga, bro, do you know how, like, bro, this nigga probably jacking his shit to videos of people fucking and shit, and people in the shower and all type of weird shit.
And he ended up pleading guilty to 6 of them. Apparently, Ali had captured over 2,000 images of guests in their most intimate moments. This included them sleeping, undressing, and even having sex.
I'm telling you, bro.
Everything. Disgustingly enough, even children weren't spared, counting up to more than 30 of the unknowing victims. So how did Ali's scheme eventually get discovered? The answer to this takes...
Bro, that's why it's risky though, cause all it takes is one person to like be paranoid and check around and find a camera and you're fucked. Like niggas, that's how you know these niggas have real like demons within them to go and do some shit.
Back to July of 2021, when a couple from the Midwest, David and his girlfriend...
And on me, I'm not renting out no Airbnb in no barnyard, no nowhere like this, bro. This is like some... Nigga, if one nigga come with a chainsaw, everybody dead, bro. Fuck that shit. This shit look haunted. Look at this fucking crib, my nigga. This shit looks demonic.
Booked a stay at his property. Right from the get-go, they were quite concerned since Ali has suggested it would be a great experience to watch the sunrise from the porch, either in their pajamas or entirely naked. It's pretty normal for hosts to suggest fun activities, but to straight up say,
yeah, like, see, so now the niggas moving hot with it. You have camera, you're telling, go watch, yo, You know what's fire? You know what the nigga saying? You know what's fire? The nights. Watch the sunset as the sun goes down. Butt naked. You guys can have sex there if you want to. I'm not judging. Do what you want. Man, I'm in that bitch like, nigga. Instantly suss the fuck out. Why would you say that? And you know you have some weird shit going on. The fuck?
Yeah, you guys can be naked at the porch. Extremely suspicious from
Yeah,
the start.
like-
I guess they rubbed it off and continued with their stay. It was, however, when his girlfriend was showering later that David noticed the AC power adapter was facing the bed. Because of those initial comments from the host and just basic instinct, he took a closer look and his fears were confirmed. Turns out that it was actually a hidden camera that was wired into the wall. Immediately, they did the only thing they could do at that point,
Call the
leave.
police?
They then filed a criminal complaint at the Kendall County Sheriff's Office. Just a day after this, the police issued a search warrant on the property as well as on Ali's home, which was nearby. Investigators confiscated at least 6 electronic devices that belonged to Ali, which were later handed to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security.
Oh my
Investigations
God,
were still
nigga.
ongoing when in October of 2021, a new piece of evidence suggested that the hidden camera had actually been set up in the property for at least 9 months before that specific couple had reported
Wow.
it. Crazily, this piece of evidence was an Instagram video that had been recorded in November of 2020, showing what looked like the same AC adapter in the exact same position. This is how the 2,000 plus images I mentioned at the beginning of this case came about, with some sources actually quoting a total of 2,126 image thumbnails. Slowly, as the news spread, more guests who stayed at Ali's property came out with complaints, obviously concerned about their privacy. At least 17 of the victims were being represented by attorneys Roger Bresnahan and Bianca Zuniga Goldwater, who described their
Wow.
clients' experiences to have been like a real-life scary movie. Now, what makes this whole thing even more bizarre is that despite the accusation, Ali had initially
And then the thing is you never know. Imagine you go, you're not no porn star, you're not no none of that. But you go out, you do shit with your shorty, you do, or a girl, you do shit with your nigga. Boom. There's somebody in the world who has videos of you fucking, and you don't even know if it's deleted, you don't know if it's gone, you don't know shit. Like, it could be anywhere, nigga. You don't know if it'll ever come out one day. Like, that shit's probably nerve-wracking and scary as hell, bro. Like, yo, niggas is
claimed
fucked
to be
bad,
innocent
bro.
of the charges and even was looking forward to the hearing. His professed innocence, though, never held water for long because beside the concrete evidence at the
Yeah,
scene,
nigga, you're going to
he
jail,
began sending
bro.
threats to David, the man who initially discovered the hidden camera. Apparently, texts were discovered of Ali accusing David of allegedly placing the camera there himself, and that, quote, he would have to take the necessary measures to protect his family from extortion and fraud, end quote. And
He's dumb as fuck. Bro, my nigga, all the police have to, he's done, he's cooked. Bro, all the police have to do is just go and look and see the dates of how long the fucking camera has been rolling, how much footage it has. You can go back to the start of when it was put up and see who put it up. Nigga, they're not gonna sit here and be like, oh, that nigga had that shit. That nigga who came there for that one day planted that shit there. You lost this case. Man.
anyway,
You're going to
Ali ended
jail,
up serving
bro.
time in jail and was eventually released after his 1-year sentence.
One
He actually got out
year?
earlier this year in February. Also, over and above all of that, at least 13 other people who had stayed at his property, including 2 minors,
This nigga recorded minors naked. This nigga recorded niggas having sex without their consent. They recorded all this shit. This nigga got 1 year. Yo, you can't, in America, you could be living in the hood with niggas dying every day. You move with a gun just so you don't become a victim. They're slapping you with like 4 years. They're slapping you with felony charges. They're doing all type of shit, bro. This nigga gets 1 year for being an actual weirdo and doing some pedophile shit and all type of weird shit. Like, what the fuck is going on, bro? How does that make sense? Like, this nigga's actually a sexual deviant, nigga. What the fuck?
are some like no amount of justice
got
would
1
ever be
year.
enough. Some of them sadly reported that they're suffering
Nigga, I know niggas who probably got fucking 1 year for spitting on a nigga, bro.
from long-term trauma, just living with the fear that their images, or even worse, their
Could
kids'
come out.
images, are somewhere floating around
That's
on
what
the
I'm
internet
saying,
or in
bro.
some weird people's hard drives.
Yeah, like,
Guests
and seeing how that nigga did it, he probably was selling that shit to niggas on the dark web, like,
on a drug-induced orgy.
or had like a campsite set up where niggas could see that shit, like, weird.
We've just seen how guests can have
Wait,
a
what?
are somewhere floating around in the internet.
Yo, I'm telling you right now. Yo, I'm for the demons, nigga. It is 11 a.m. I have not slept all night.
Internet or in some weird people's hard drives.
We've been live for 3.5 hours. Cool.
Guests
Is that a
on a
orgy?
drug-induced orgy. We've just seen how guests can have a creepy experience in an Airbnb. Well, the reverse has also happened. Hosts having terrible experiences with guests. The case I have in mind is from April of 2015. A couple, Mark and Star King from Calgary, Canada,
Whoa. Calgary? Yo, nigga. Jam, let me find out you spit into these fucking orgies out here, what? Don't let me find that shit out, nigga. Look how this nigga's looking. That nigga's distraught. Nigga done busted 100 nuts on that nigga's sofa. He mad as hell.
Alright, bro.
He mad as hell. Look at her. She look kind of like she about to bite her lip. She kind of like, you know? This nigga's distraught. This nigga has pain in his eyes. This nigga done nutted all over his chair. Sure done squirted on this nigga's fucking, on his nigga's favorite fucking blanket. Yo, that nigga's house is desecrated, fam. Why is there a horse head on the ground? Like, yo, what type of orgy was this, my nigga?
Rented out their home for the weekend through Airbnb, only to come back to a completely destroyed house. And I mean completely trashed. Stained cushions, like, garbage, and sticky stuff all over, even the ceiling, with flooded toilets, condoms, etc. The police, who obviously had to be involved, described what happened there as a drug-induced orgy and probably one of the worst offenses of malicious property damage. Now, the couple had genuinely no idea they'd rented their home to a bunch of thrill seekers.
See, this is the thing. This is back in the day. You see what that said? That said 10 years ago. 10 years ago. Now you can't get away with that shit in Airbnb. They use fake credit cards. Nigga, now they're asking for like ID and like all type of shit. These niggas use fake credit cards, gang. Fucked up their crib.
To be involved, described what happened there as a drug-induced orgy and probably one of the worst offenses of malicious property damage. Now, the couple had genuinely no idea they'd rented their home to a bunch of thrill seekers. They'd been led to think that they were hosting 4 adults who were allegedly in town for a wedding, and the offer was so good that as a sacrifice to earn the extra money, they made plans to stay with Mark's parents as soon as they settled on a rate agreement with the renter. Sadly, it didn't take long for all hell to break loose after they handed over the keys that Friday. It was reported that just a few hours later, a 2-day-long party began, which eventually, of course, led to their home being thrashed. Also, apparently, the Kings had been receiving texts from their neighbors throughout the weekend about what was happening. For example,
yeah, like at a point, I'm going to the crib, regardless if I'm renting it out to you. If my neighbors are calling me saying like, yeah, niggas is having a whole party fucking up the crib, I'm going there. Like, they waited till these niggas left.
According to them, they were texted about a huge fight that had happened on their lawn and suspicion of property damage. Things had actually been so bad that the police even made several visits throughout the weekend, especially for multiple noise complaints. And for perspective, the host had handed the guests the keys on Friday, and it wasn't until Sunday morning that the police eventually got the revelers to leave. Actually, the previous night on Saturday, the neighbors saw a party bus that brought in almost 100 people to the home that weekend. So that Saturday night, there was a proper party at the premises, and thus the morning after, the police weren't just escorting out one person, no, it was a lot of people. And they said it took a while before they got everyone to leave. Anyway, the couple eventually returned to their home on Monday, and this is when they got to see, at least in person, the state of their house. Mark described his reaction as pure shock. He simply couldn't understand how the trust they had in these people had been betrayed. He was devastated. According to them, the couch cushions were stained and piled in the hallways. Nearly all the surfaces were covered with garbage and sticky stuff, barbecue sauce on the ceiling, cigarette butts all over the place, and even bone broth of all things and Star's shoes. To add on to that, they found bras and underwear just laying around, and even more disgustingly, the toilets were clogged with used condoms. They actually wished they had found their house burnt down to ashes instead of the mess that they got. Again, even the police agreed this was one of a kind. They had never seen anything like it. The estimated damages were thought to be between $50,000 to $75,000. Fortunately, investigations soon identified the renter. It's unclear how the criminal investigation went down and the consequences of that, but according to Airbnb, they banned the renter from accessing any of their services in the future. Also, an Airbnb representative assured the Kings that they were working on, quote, quickly reimbursing them under their $1 million host guarantee, which typically covers damages of host property. Turned the space into a junkie den, doubling down on hosts having horrible experiences.
See, all of this is like 2016 and shit. You can't get away with that shit now. Airbnb, they be on bullshit with niggas now.
Holly was deceived into renting out her Roselle apartment in 2016 by a tenant identified as Michelle, who later turned the place into a junkie den. Now, the way it happened was that Michelle lied to Holly that she had a sick child at the Sydney's Children's Hospital in Randwick and desperately needed a place to stay. An arguably really compelling story that led Holly to rent out the...
Is Yonde still in this bitch?
When I have a daughter, I'm finna be overprotective from these weird brown skin.
Bro, Yo, I think if I have a daughter, no, you can't be protective with a daughter. You can't be overprotective with kids. You have to be protective, but you have to like give them like a little bit of space. Because all the niggas I know who had really overprotective parents, they ended up being the worst when they got freedom. Like I feel like if I have a daughter, she gonna be like she'll be good, cause I'm gonna like instill good like morals in her and shit. Same thing with my son. Like I don't think, bro. I don't know, bro. I feel like I instill like good values in my kids, nigga.
Place for 10 days while she stayed at her mom's
What are we
place.
talking about?
Also, apart from genuinely being willing to help out, Holly was a first-time Airbnb user. This means she was really eager to get into the business and, of course, make some money. She particularly had hoped that what she earned from Michelle's stay would go into paying off some credit card debt. There's also the fact that together with her boyfriend, they had, in general, gone out of their way to decorate the apartment with nice furniture, just as a way to give their potential guests the best experience possible. And with Michelle being her first guest, Holly had made sure that the space was professionally cleaned just before she checked in. Unfortunately for Holly, her kindness was met by what she described to have been a, quote, junkie den. When she returned to her apartment, she found that not only had she been robbed, but also that the place was completely trashed. There was rotten fruit smeared on the walls, a cracked pipe in a vase, and several of her items missing. That includes cushions, lamps, a speaker, and a hard drive. In addition, there was a mysterious green liquid on a lot of the walls, and her towels were disturbingly covered in blood. The place stank of chemicals. They later found out from the police that this had been either heroin or ice. And it was undeniably evident that trashing the place was Michelle's goal from the start, because the smoke alarm in the apartment had been covered. More of the mess also included several used cigarettes on the kitchen counters and cupboards. All of that, of course, being hurtful to Holly, but what really pained her was seeing ashes spread across her $2,000 rug. The total amount of damages came to about $10,000.
Wow.
Sadly, all that rendered Holly homeless because she didn't have an alternative place to stay while all the damages were being fixed. And to add insult to injury, Holly claimed that Airbnb had not responded to any of her complaints, even as the police got involved. All she got from them was that they were, quote, looking into their claim. And her claim? Well, justifiably, all she wanted was to be compensated for the cleaning cost and the damages.
So did you
It was
do that?
actually not after a massive uproar among online users that Airbnb eventually took some action. Michelle was banned from accessing any Airbnb services in the future, and a spokesman shared that they would be prosecuting her for the damages. Additionally, Airbnb transferred $2,200 to Holly's account to help with the immediate cleanup of the apartment and for her temporary accommodation.
For
now, a
10K
funny yet not so funny bit here is that, like they do for all their hosts after their guest leaves, Airbnb sent a text to Holly reminding her to rate her house guest, and to her, it felt like this was just one more final insult. Guests ran a pop-up brothel. Before we dive into this one, maybe I should get out of the way that sex work is legal in the UK. Well, except in Northern Ireland, where paying for sex isn't allowed. In general, sex work adjacent activities, for example, soliciting for sex and keeping brothels, aren't allowed. That can translate to more than one sex worker not being able to live or work from the same house. Now, to get around all that, seeing that we live in a truly digital era, what are being referred to as pop-up brothels are on the rise in the UK. This phenomenon especially got the online community talking back in 2017 after an Airbnb host reported a curious incident in his apartment after he had unknowingly rented it out to, quote, high-profile escorts. The host later contacted the BBC to share his horrible experience.
Yo, I feel
and
like
just
the
like
life
in the
of an escort is like so depressing, bro. Yo, I'm sorry I'm not talking a lot, nigga. I'm so tired. I'm off of an all-nighter, but gang, I feel like the life of an escort is insane, gang. Like, bro, imagine, like, I don't know. I couldn't imagine that shit, bro.
BBC piece where they used an alias, that being Greg for him. We'll just go with that name. Now for this particular booking, the guests apparently had asked if they could pay in cash, something which Greg was skeptical about and immediately said no. He refused that offer because it would be going against the Airbnb terms of service, and it also meant Airbnb wouldn't cover anything in case something went wrong. The guests eventually agreed to the proper booking format, and Greg, against his initial judgment, chose to ignore his suspicions about them and allowed them to check in. Nothing seemed odd in their stay, although when it was finally time for them to leave, Greg received a text from them requesting to extend their stay by a few hours because they had a heavy night. That, bundled with his initial suspicion, made him unsettled, and out of curiosity, he went on to look up their names on Google. That's when it became clear that the two were high-profile escorts. Still curious, he dug and got around to even figuring out their rates, and some quick math on the 2 nights they had stayed, he figured it added to at least £2,600 each, £5,200 in total. He couldn't wait anymore, so he just went to the house. What he found was a little strange to say the least. The apartment smelled like wine and perfume.
So So like all those niggas, they had to fuck. They ran a pop-up brothel, meaning niggas were just coming in and fuck, and they got 2,600. Like, is that even worth it, gang? I mean, I get it. You're not really doing shit, but like still.
There were at least 7 or 8 wine bottles, which for 2 nights was quite heavy drinking. He also found used condom wrappers under the bed and said that the bin was literally overflowing with tissues and used condoms. Greg was concerned that his house had been used as a pop-up brothel, meaning that he had indirectly broken the law I just talked about. So he contacted the police. Surprisingly, although they took down all the information he offered, nothing much was done about it. He even tried following up, but nothing much came of it. According to him, he felt a bit let down by the police, and even worried for other people who might end up in his shoes. Now, as Greg's story made its rounds online and drew attention, a sex worker by the name of Charlotte shared her own side of the story when it came to preferring temporary housing like Airbnb. Like many other sex workers, she would be forced to move houses whenever neighbors learned of her profession, and the horrible experience of that added to the expensive nature of constantly moving. This is why it seemed preferable to stay in Airbnbs. She'd do so together with a friend or two in order to share the expenses. Charlotte also said there was a safety in numbers because some clients could sometimes be dangerous, and it always helped knowing that there was someone around in such an unfortunate situation. Interestingly, she fully acknowledged that she was breaking the law, with the logic behind it being that she'd rather risk being accused of running a pop-up brothel than risk her own life. Anyway, Greg's story also caught Airbnb's attention, and it didn't take long for them to respond, saying that they had zero tolerance for such behavior. Since then, campaign groups have come out to advocate for legal establishments where sex workers can receive regular clients, which would also promote their safety through security measures like installing CCTVs.
Safety? Like, what type of fuckery? So, do you want niggas to spend your tax money? Yo, what the fuck is going on, man? Like, so... we're asking niggas to spend tax money to make safe environments for prostitutes to get fucked with CCTV cameras and shit. What the fuck is going on, bro? What are niggas talking about? Like, I know I'm not bugging, my nigga. Like, holy shit, bro. And like, I'm tired too, so like everything is like sinking into my mind right now. Like, this shit is crazy.
Host attacked a guest couple as they slept. This one, like the first case, involves a super host. It happened back in 2018 when a Boston couple who had traveled down to Los Angeles to get away from their busy lives ended up in a nightmare that they never anticipated. The couple, medical residents Jaleesa Jackson and Chidozie Wandu, described their experience at this particular Airbnb as the scare of their lives. So here's what went down. When they checked into the guest house, everything seemed okay. Their host, a man named JJ, had even left them a kind note and a cold bottle of wine to welcome them. They spent that night happy, and it wasn't until 5:30 in the morning the next day that all the drama started. According to them, they got rudely woken up by loud banging and yelling at the front door. Out of fear, Jaleesa called their host JJ. Strangely, they heard the phone ringing outside the door. That's how they found out it was actually...
Yo, fuck is going on? Yo, what is
actually
going on?
JJ banging on the door. He picked up the call, admitted it was him, and apologized for the quote confusion, though adding that life was too short to give them an explanation. I don't know either. Ironically, he wished them a nice time in LA. For whatever reason, the couple stayed and even enjoyed their first day at the beach. On their second night though, at around 2 in the morning, something even crazier happened. A man came crashing in through their bedroom window, throwing broken glass all over.
Yo, what is going on, bro? Oh, they said this nigga bust through the window like Batman, nigga. What the fuck is going on?
All over the place. Uwandu's instincts and the couple stayed and even enjoyed their first day at the beach. On their second night though, at around 2 in the morning, something even crazier happened. A man came crashing in through their bedroom window, throwing broken glass all over the place. Uwandu's instinct was that they were under attack, and he sprang into action, even managing to pin the man down. The man unfortunately managed to escape Uwandu's hold, but luckily, they were able to identify him as JJ. They couldn't let that slide, and so they immediately contacted the authorities. The police were initially skeptical that the Airbnb host would try and attack their guests, but they eventually came around and swung into action. They even sent in police helicopters and luckily captured JJ, whose excuse was that he had been trying to evict the couple for cleaning charges. It was later discovered that JJ wasn't even allowed to rent out the place in the first place. That's according to an elderly lady who was his landlord at the time. Now the couple was in no way spending another night at the house, so they just checked into a nearby Hilton. Sadly, on top of what they had already spent on Airbnb, they ended up paying another $2,300 for their hotel room, parking, and other expenses. Because of this, they contacted Airbnb for compensation, and it took months for them to be reimbursed the full amount of their fees. Beyond that, Jaleesa and Uwandu also asked for $5,000 from the company, but only got half plus free therapy sessions to overcome the trauma. That solution ended up not being so well
What
received, as
the
even celebrities
fuck?
chimed in with disappointment. Actress Gabrielle Union, for example, tweeted saying that whatever happened could have ended way worse than it did, and that Airbnb needs to protect their guests better.
Yeah.
Airbnb remained adamant though, and only responded by removing JJ from the platform. They said there have been millions of stays on Airbnb overall, and negative experiences are extremely rare occurrences.
Yeah, for it to like, they have a good ratio in terms of bad and good that has happened, but like, yo, that shit is crazy, nigga.
New Year's banger with over 250
They
guests.
said that nigga jumped into the window, and the weirdest part is they actually still don't know why the nigga did it. Like, they didn't even explain why he was doing that. They said this nigga busted through the window like Batman, nigga, and landed like this with his arm in the air, and then got tackled.
Crazy as it sounds, this next one was a party that took police officers from 5
the
area departments to
fuck?
shut it down. It happened on the last Saturday of December of 2017, when officers were called to a home in Shelley Drive, Ohio at around 11 p.m.
Yo, I
Why?
miss the days when you could go on Airbnb, rent a crib, and then door jam. That's when times was so fire, bro. Back in the day, and I'm saying back in the day, like it's bare time ago, but like 2019, yo, you get some of your homies, all of you niggas, you guys put like 100 down. Back then it was a vibe. Now it's like you can't even do that no more. Like all the Airbnbs like no more than da guess and like all type of shit. But yo, back then it was sick, bro.
Well, noise complaints. Also, adding on to that, at the time, there was a snow ban, and neighbors had complained that there were many cars parked on the streets blocking their driveways. When the police first got there, what they found was somewhat bizarre. There was this guy, let's call him Guy A, who was responsible for throwing the party. Guy A had rented just one room in the house for $40 a night through Airbnb. The owner of the house, a 28-year-old man who we'll just call Guy B, was actually home with the guests when all this was going down, which then makes...
Yo, how the fuck are you in a crib and you let a nigga throw a whole ass party in your crib while you're there? I thought this nigga was not there.
It's weird when you learn that, like any other host on the platform, he had specific rules for his guests. One of them being that no parties were allowed during their stay in the house. The host also had barriers in place to prevent access to some of the other rooms. This...
How the fuck does a nigga come into your house? You're there, you tell the nigga no party, and he still throws a party. How does that happen, bro? Like, I need to understand.
His house guests, unfortunately, cared less about what his host had to say because, like I pointed out, he hosted a huge party with a turnout of almost 250 people. And
How
still
does
getting
that
crazier,
happen?
he had apparently advertised this party on Twitter, inviting practically everyone to what he called a, quote, New Year's banger. Why? Not really too sure, but maybe for the $5 that he was charging people at the entrance. But where was the owner all along? I mean, we know he was home, but where? Well, trying unsuccessfully to get things under control. He is said to have tried to intervene, but it got out of control as he even was threatened by 5 men at the party. For his safety, he retreated and locked himself in his room, where he...
Yo, how the fuck do niggas press 5 niggas press you in your own house and make you retreat and lock yourself in your own room in your own fucking house, nigga?
He then decided to call the police. The Seven Hills police responded, and initially, they had a hard time accessing the house because of snow.
what?
Then, when they finally managed to, they said they could hear the music from 100 yards away and saw a lot of people going in and out of the house. They described the house as being so tightly packed in each room that there was no space for someone to even extend their arm. They began trying to usher people out, asking the partygoers to leave, but that only started anti-police
Yo,
comments.
nigga, the house owner is a bitch, nigga. Yo, you mean a nigga walks into your fucking house, you say no partying, he's renting out one room. You know, the nigga tells you no partying. This nigga, yo, this will really happen. I really think the nigga slapped him in the face and nigga, I'm running a party here. He said, okay, and then he calls some of his homies up, and then the nigga probably like, no, but I still, and then the 5 niggas started pressing him. I don't think that nigga just pulled up and was like, and just threw a party. Like, I feel like he got bitch, and then the nigga went in his room, locked the door, barricaded the door, closed it, called 911. What the fuck?
Comments and shouts. The officers from Seven Hills PD were
How does
clearly
that
outnumbered and
happen?
luckily had called in reinforcements. Almost comically though, even as other officers arrived, there were still more people coming to the party and reportedly turned away at least 50 other vehicles. To effectively break up the party, they had to strategically gain entrance from different parts of the house, with some reports saying that they were met by smells of weed and alcohol, and sights of people throwing up literally where they stood, and also visible heavy damage to the house. And
Holy
even with all
shit.
that effort, it took about an hour for them to completely clear out the place. Also, out of panic, some people had broken windows or broken doors trying to escape,
What was
only
the
causing more
homeowner
damage.
doing?
I mean, things were so bad that a neighbor whose house was also sadly destroyed that night said that she was fearful for the officers' safety, describing the partygoers as a mob. The man behind the party, Guy A, though remaining unidentified, is said to have faced several serious charges. These include disorderly conduct for unreasonable noise, and hindering movement on public streets, furnishing alcohol to minors, alcohol activities without a permit, and criminal damage. As for the aftermath, the homeowner said everything had been ruined. It's still unclear whether or not he got assistance from Airbnb, having already filed a complaint. They did, however, say the same exact statement I've said before, that there are millions of Airbnb experiences, and this is just a really rare one. They put that out along with a list of tips for hosts to prevent similar occurrences. host SA guests after holding them hostage. This one is quite a bit more sad than the others because it involves a case of SA. What was meant to be a fun-filled trip to Madrid turned into a horror story for 19-year-old Jacob Lopez after his Airbnb host held him hostage and took advantage of him. It was reported that early in the evening of the 4th of July of 2015, Jacob's mother, Michaela Giles, received very concerning...
Yo, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so tired. I'm off of an all-nighter. It's 11:31 a.m. But listen, this shit is
Early in the evening of the 4th of July of 2015, Jacob's mother, Michaela Giles, received very concerning texts from her son begging for help. Jacob had been staying at an apartment he had booked through Airbnb while in Madrid, and through his numerous texts, his mom found out that his host had been harassing her son. According to Jacob, since they arrived at her apartment from the subway, the host had been pressuring him into submitting to sexual acts. She allegedly kept on kissing him and even took off his pants at one point, but Jacob denied all of her advances. All that pretty frightening and made worse by the fact that
how is a girl gang, you can't fight off a girl, my nigga. Like, I'm gonna keep it a beat. I know men get taken advantage of too, right? 100%. I understand that. I'm taking this off. I know men get taken advantage. Oh yeah, this is the hairline. Oh yeah, niggas, I don't have a fucked up hairline. My shit is straight as fuck. Yes, sir. Yeah, I know y'all niggas was trying to say something earlier. My shit is straight as fuck. All y'all niggas. Okay, listen, I understand man can be SA2 and shit, but, like, how is a girl preventing you from leaving the crib, bro? Like, nigga, if you don't pit this shorty up, if you don't RKO this shorty, if you don't Superman punch this shorty, if you don't spear this shorty, if you don't Batista bomb this shorty, like, what are you doing, my nigga? Unless it's a... What if it's a... It might be a transitioner. If it's a transitioner, nigga, you should still handle that. Like,
the host
how
had
are you
locked
being
him
held
up
captive?
and was rattling knives in the kitchen to threaten him. His mom said she felt completely helpless.
Oh, this motherfucker had knives. Yo, I'm sorry, I'm tired, bro. I know I seem fried, but I'm actually not fried. I'm just so tired.
Bliss, having been so far away from her son back home in Massachusetts. She had one recourse though, contacting Airbnb and asking them to contain the situation. Surprisingly, they weren't very cooperative and only took her around in circles. According to her, the Airbnb representatives completely refused to give her...
What the fuck would Airbnb do? Like, are they gonna drive out to this nigga's house? This nigga's in... Where did they even say he is? Like, Spain or some shit? Bro, they're not gonna do shit. I'm gonna be honest.
Her son's address and also refused to call the police. Instead, they provided her with the Madrid police's number and insisted they could only take action if the police themselves contacted them. When she called the provided number, Michaela said that it took her to a Spanish recording that kept disconnecting her. Frustrated and understandably so, she blew up the Airbnb contact until all her calls were being directed to voicemail. Now, as his mom was desperately doing all she could on his end, Jacob was frantically trying to find anything that he could use to protect himself. He said at this point he was so scared for his life that he thought the night would either end with his host killing him or him killing her. He couldn't, however, stomach the thought of being a killer and couldn't have lived with someone's blood on his hands. Sadly, alone and defenseless, Jacob was reported to have been continuously SA'd that entire night. Eventually, he managed to convince his host to let him out by lying to her that he had plans to meet up with his friends who knew where he was staying. Once he was out of the apartment, he immediately left Madrid and headed back home to Massachusetts. Now, regarding the host, what we do know for sure is that she was a transgender woman. She did, however, deny all allegations against her and claimed...
I knew it, nigga. I knew it. But listen, he's not lying. I'm telling you. This nigga's not lying. No grown man will come out this bitch and lie about being SA'd by a transgender. That shit was not consensual. And if it was, he would never even have said, oh, he got taken advantage of. He would just hit it. No nigga is coming out to the public who is straight and publicly admitted that saying that a transgender took advantage of them. They would just, if it was consensual, he would have just said nothing. I'm telling you
that the sex was consensual. She even accused Jacob of making up the story because he was allegedly transphobic. Regardless, the host later shared that the Madrid police had already visited her apartment and that she expected...
Why would you make up the story because the nigga is trans? Why would he make up a story that makes him have to do sexual... Why would he make up a story of him being sexually assaulted by a transgender person because he's transphobic? Like, you're transphobic, you don't want no nigga thinking no transgender did touched you and shit. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I 100% believe niggas do not come out about SA shit and you will never really hear a nigga talk about no SA shit. If a nigga says something about SA, he probably really went through that shit.
To be exonerated. Jacob, on the other hand, was left traumatized and wished that he had trusted his instincts from the very beginning when he noticed a few things about the host didn't add up. That's despite the good Airbnb reviews. His mom, Michaela, was equally traumatized, but she was really proud of her son for coming out and sharing his experience. The host profile has since been removed from the app's listing, and Airbnb responded by saying that they had learned a lot from Jacob's incident and were working on improving their guest safety measures. Homeowner fined $500,000 after renter's illegal Airbnb. What happens when someone illegally lists your property as an Airbnb without your knowledge? Well, Drew Burrell is a perfect answer to that question. This Miami Beach house owner was facing a fine worth almost $500,000 because his beach house had been listed on the platform. According to Drew, he had used Airbnb in the past, and to his knowledge, it had been years since he was last on the platform. It was thus surprising when he got the first notice from the city of Miami Beach on the 19th of January 2017 for listing a property against the city's zip code guidelines. All he knew was that his property had two long-term tenants, Isabel Burney and Tematope Oladapo, and they weren't from Airbnb, just normal people renting out the place for their own use. And at the time, he was living in Silicon Valley, far enough that he wasn't aware of the day-to-day activities on the property. It soon became clear, though, that these tenants were subletting the place. Despite a clause in their lease that forbade them from using the property for transient occupancy, an agent that Drew sent in to investigate confirmed that the tenants were doing exactly that. They also weren't taking care of the place as they should have been. The agent said that when they visited the house, they found that the yard had been trashed, the patio furniture looked shredded, and somebody had installed electronic locks, probably to enable guests to check in and out. Anyway, livid at what had gone down, Drew embarked on a rather painful journey of clearing his name. First, there was the option to deal with...
You have to be a dumbass nigga. Why are you doing that in the next nigga's crib, bro?
the city, something he figured would take some time. So instead, he was focused on taking down the property from Airbnb's listing. Seems easy, but then it apparently took him quite some time to find his house among the endless listings. He eventually found it on the 17th of March that same year, a little over a month later, and to his surprise, the listing promised guests a tropical and electric home that could sleep 12. Now, armed with the property's link, he emailed Airbnb's customer service explaining the situation. And again, you'd think this would be as easy as showing proof you own the property and getting it taken off the website, right?
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, it turns out Airbnb wasn't too eager to help. They only responded saying that they didn't offer any legal advice to their users. It wasn't actually until Drew reached out to a friend that had connections with an Airbnb that he received a somewhat useful response. On the 28th of March, a whole 11 days later, Airbnb finally wrote back to him, this time promising to handle the situation. And to Drew's relief, the company kept their word, and on the 4th of April, the listing was taken down. With that out of the way, he was then ready to deal with the city's $500,000 fine. But then things weren't over just yet. He had barely evicted his tenants when new travelers showed up at the house, 4 days after booking their vacation stay. Drew would then find out that Bernie and Aladopa, his previous tenants, had started their own booking website called Vacayo and quite bizarrely, listed Drew's house on it even after they knew it was taken down from Airbnb.
Wow.
So this meant that the two were still in business. Anyway, it's unclear how he went about getting them to take down the listing from their site, if at all they did, and the two also denied all allegations made against them. Among the concerning bits of this case is that it seems that this kind of thing isn't unheard of. Many other homeowners actually came forward and shared being in similar horrific experiences.
Yo,
as
you have
Drew.
to be a bold nigga to still be booking niggas after you know the nigga already knows that you're
corpse
like,
and garden. About 10 miles from
kicked you out for doing that shit. Like,
Paris is a little known but well-off town called Polyzoo, which in February of 2016 made its way to global media headlines after a rather unsettling Airbnb fiasco that happened there. Guests discovered a body in the garden in the house that they were staying at. The renters, described as a group of young people mostly in their 20s, had intended to stay at the property for the weekend, but their stay got cut short when they bumped into a body on Saturday afternoon. Now, to give you perspective on the house, it was located in suburban Paris and was described as a charming 7-bedroom house with a swimming pool and overlooking a forest area. The host had it listed for £435 a night. Reports also pointed out that the far end of the property was unfenced and simply slopped into the forest. Like the garden just extended into the forest. It was near this end that the group discovered the body of the woman, who police estimated to have been in her early 40s. The body was found laying down, face on the dirt, covered in branches and surrounded with wooden stumps. The woman was dressed but with no shoes and had a ring with a large stone. Interestingly, the police believed the body had been left out there to be found, and so they questioned the renters as well as the family that owned the property. It actually turned out that the family of 7 that had lived there had gone on a short vacation to a different region in France and had intended to return on the following week on Wednesday. Learning of the news, the homeowner was reported to have been pretty shaken by the idea that it could have been his young children that made this gruesome discovery. Anyway, the identity of the woman couldn't be immediately established as her body was too decomposed for autopsy. So it was, however, estimated that she had died about a month or more prior.
Wow.
Alright guys, that's gonna be it for this video.
Was she murdered? Was she... What the fuck happened to her? Holy fuck. Yo, Airbnb get wicked, nigga. Y'all niggas be safe, bro.
Baby, I like just how you blushing. And maybe we could bust it at the function. Turn nothing to something. Wish you could just see the horrors of my life, my upbringing.